Hello YouTube, I'm Dr. Bruce, and this is my review of the Maxo Bluetti AC200P for CPAP use. The AC200P is a 2000 watt-hour power station with long-lasting lithium iron phosphate cells. It has a pure sine wave AC inverter capable of 2000 watt sustained current and will surge up to 4800 watts. There are 6 AC outlets, 4 standard 5-volt 3-amp USB outlets, 1 USB-C outlet with up to 60 watts output, 2 3-amp barrel outlets for 12 volt, 1 10-amp cigarette lighter outlet for 12 volts, a 12-volt 25-amp aviation port. Aviation refers to the type of plug, not the intended use, and 2 15-watt wireless charging stations on top. That's a lot of capability. The AC200P is similar in every detail to the wildly popular AC200, which sold thousands of units on an Indiegogo campaign in the summer of 2020. The only difference is the switch to lithium iron phosphate cells with an increase of 300 watt-hours over the 1700 available on the AC200. The AC200P weighs in at 60 pounds. This is at the high end of what I'd call portable. The built-in handles work great, and one reasonably fit person can move it around. But I plan to find a good location and leave it there, and I reckon most people will do the same. The AC200P has a built-in fan to keep it cool when needed. It seems my CPAP doesn't draw enough current to cause the fan to kick on, so it's perfectly quiet all night long. In situating the unit, be sure to leave space for the fan to draw air without straining. A 4-inch margin on all sides will be sufficient. I'm not going to go deeply into technical specifications. For those who are unfamiliar with these products, there are numerous reviews on YouTube which go into considerable detail on the technical aspects. I highly recommend 2 channels for this purpose: Do-It-Yourself Solar with Will Prowse and HoboTech. Both of these presenters are kind of quirky, but their information is impeccable and thorough. My goal is to provide information on usage rather than specs. In my world, that boils down to 4 principal uses: CPAP, amateur radio, emergency preparations, and camping. Rather than do one long video covering all of these, I'll present several short videos, focusing on one use case at a time. Today, we're looking at the CPAP. I live in hurricane country in eastern North Carolina. We have been through some doozies in the decades I've lived here, including Hurricanes Floyd and Florence, which devastated the whole region, and several smaller ones like Fran and Irene, which had a major impact, but not as widespread. In addition to hurricanes, we have power outages due to occasional severe storms, ice storms, and sometimes for no discernible reason. If the power goes out at night, I don't want my CPAP to stop working. So I use a power station at all times for the CPAP. Some of you may want to do the same and came here for information on how to do this. I've had the AC200P for 2 months and have been using it for my CPAP for that entire time. When I first got it and was testing it out, before turning on the CPAP every night, I would take a photo of the screen, and again when waking up. So I have a series of photos showing the exact percentage of battery used each night. My conclusions are drawn from that data. My CPAP is a Philips Dream Station, and you can see it towards the top center of the screen. It's a quiet and efficient machine. With the humidifier, it draws an average of 50 watts per hour over an 8-hour period. When first turned on, as the humidifier heats up the water, the current is higher. After the water has heated up, the current drops. Without the humidifier, the average power needed is 10 to 12 watts. Clearly, for a long-term power outage or off-grid camping, also called boondocking, if you can get along without the humidifier, you will extend the usage considerably. Some people need the humidifier and will have to depend on it. I've powered the CPAP with both the AC power brick that came with it and with a 12-volt adapter, which I purchased separately. And you can see the adapter just below the power on-off button on the upper left of the AC200P. I also ran the CPAP with and without the humidifier while testing. While I prefer the humidifier for everyday use, in a lengthy power outage I would disconnect it, as the humidifier more than doubles the amount of power needed. On average, with the humidifier on the 12-volt outlet, I will lose about 20% battery capacity per night, so it could run at least 4 and maybe 5 nights without recharging. On the AC inverter, it loses 25% or more per night, which would give me a total of 3 to 4 nights. If your CPAP has a 12-volt adapter cord, that's the way to go. Without the humidifier at 10 to 12 watts per hour on the 12-volt port, I could easily get 10 days use. In a power outage situation, if it went on this long, we would bug out to another location, as there would be other issues affecting our safety and comfort, besides just the lack of electricity. For long-term camping or boondocking, this would be much more important and will be covered in a later video. For everyday use, I leave the AC200P turned on all the time. If I were maximizing it, I would turn it off when not using it, since with the 12-volt system turned on, it loses around 1% per hour, even when nothing is drawing any current. The 12-volt regulation circuitry takes some power and produces this loss. If the AC inverter is turned on, the drain is even higher. This is another good reason to invest in a 12-volt power cord for your CPAP. You could turn the AC200P off when you're not using it. It must be on in order to charge. The AC200P has pass-through charging, which means you can use it while it's plugged in, either to the wall charger or to solar power. In my current home, I don't have a solar power set up, so I use the wall charger to keep it powered. I prefer not to leave the wall charger active at all times, as it will shorten the life of the battery cells to keep them at 100%. So I have the wall charger plugged into a smart outlet, which is programmed to recharge the AC200P for a couple of hours every other day. Basically, I run the unit between 20 to 80% state of charge, which is recommended by many experts as providing the greatest longevity for batteries with a lithium chemistry. Lithium iron phosphate batteries already have a great lifetime, so I'm not so worried about that. But since it's simple enough to do, why not? The smart outlet I use is rated for 3 times the amperage that the wall charger draws, which is a generous safety factor. If you choose to use a smart outlet as I do, I suggest you follow this plan. We had a brief power outage during the night, the very first week that I had the AC200P. The only way I know this is that the clock on the stove and the microwave were blinking when I got up. The CPAP never stopped because it wasn't plugged into the grid. Prior to getting the AC200P, I was using a Bluetti EB150 for the CPAP, with the same cycle of programmed recharging. While the EB150 has nominally 500 watts less than the AC200P, I got a couple more nights of CPAP use out of it under the same conditions described above. I believe, although I can't prove, that the 12-volt regulation circuitry is more efficient in the EB150, and thus the drain during the day is less. Again, in a long-term power outage or boondocking situation, I would turn either of these batteries off during the day to avoid parasitic loss. Either of these, the AC200P or the EB150, would do the job for my CPAP over a week's use or more. I see the EB150 as better for 12-volt usage, and the AC200P as maximized for the AC inverter. For that reason, I'll be moving the AC200P downstairs, where I would have a need for AC in a power outage, and return the EB150 to the CPAP service. Full disclosure, I received a review unit from Max Oak in order to do this review. The testing is all mine. They did not ask to see this review before it was published on YouTube. You might be seeing it before they do. I hope this review is helpful for all of my fellow CPAP users. If you're also interested in ham radio, emergency preps, and camping, please subscribe to my channel so you won't miss the follow-up episodes. I will also be testing other power stations, such as the newer Bluetti AC200, a lightweight mid-range power station with different applications. That's all for now. I'll see you on the next video.